Have you ever been there? That intoxicating phase of a new connection where everything just clicks. The late-night conversations flow effortlessly. The inside jokes are already forming, and you can feel the warmth of genuine potential. He's consistent, he's engaged, he makes you feel seen and desired. And then, just as you start to relax, just as you allow yourself to believe this might actually be something real, it changes. The texts become shorter, the calls less frequent. The vibrant energy that once pulled you in is replaced by a quiet, unnerving distance. It's like a switch has been flipped, and you're left standing in the dark, wondering what you did wrong. The closer you get, the further he seems to go. And this isn't just a frustrating dating pattern. It's one of the most painful paradoxes in human relationships. Why does the very thing we crave most, intimacy and genuine connection, sometimes trigger a retreat? Why is it that the moment things get serious, the man who seemed all in suddenly starts looking for the exit? It's not about you being too much or him being a bad guy. It's about a deeply ingrained psychological wiring that many men aren't even aware of themselves. To understand it, we need to look past the surface behavior and see the hidden fears driving the retreat. There are a few distinct patterns this withdrawal takes, and recognizing them is the first step to reclaiming your peace of mind. Let's start with the most common one, the freedom seeker. This is the man who is absolutely captivating in the early stages. He's adventurous, spontaneous, and makes you feel like you're the only person in the world. The chase is everything to him. He loves the thrill of winning you over, the excitement of the unknown, the limitless possibilities of what if. The problem is, his entire sense of self is tied to his autonomy, his independence. In his mind, a serious relationship isn't a partnership, it's a cage. The moment the connection deepens from a series of exciting, separate events into a shared, interwoven life, he panics. It's not you he's running from. It's the perceived loss of himself. Think about it. He was the one suggesting spontaneous weekend trips, but the second you mention planning a vacation for 3 months from now, he gets cagey. He was the one who couldn't get enough of you. But when you suggest leaving a toothbrush at his place, he changes the subject. These small steps toward integration feel like walls closing in on him. His withdrawal is a desperate attempt to preserve his identity, which he mistakenly believes can only exist when he is completely untethered. He isn't necessarily a player. He might genuinely care for you, but his fear of being engulfed is greater than his desire for connection. He's caught in a tragic loop. He craves intimacy, but sabotages it the moment he gets it, because to him, love feels like the end of freedom. But there's another type, and his retreat is often more confusing because it comes from a place that feels almost like the opposite of arrogance. Meet the imposter. This man pulls away not because he thinks he's too good for the relationship, but because he's terrified he's not good enough for you. He's the one who listens intently, remembers the little things, and seems to place you on a pedestal. He's amazed by your intelligence, your kindness, your ambition. And at first, it's incredibly flattering. The problem is, he has a deeply rooted case of what psychologists call the imposter syndrome. He sees this wonderful, capable person in you, and then he looks at himself and sees only flaws. He lives in constant fear that you will eventually discover he's a fraud. He believes that if you see the real him, his insecurities, his messy past, his ordinary struggles, the illusion will shatter, and you will leave. So what does he do? He leaves first. His withdrawal is a preemptive strike against inevitable heartbreak. This is the guy who might disappear right after a moment of profound vulnerability. Perhaps you shared something deeply personal and he responded in kind. In that moment of true connection, he felt more seen than ever before, and that visibility was terrifying. His inner critic screams, "She sees you now. It's only a matter of time before she realizes you're not who she thinks you are." So he creates distance to regain control. He'll become busy or emotionally unavailable, not to hurt you, but to protect himself from the perceived certainty of your future rejection. It's a tragic form of self-sabotage, born from a place of deep admiration and even deeper insecurity. Now, here's where it gets even more subtle. Let's talk about the man who doesn't physically run, but emotionally vanishes. This is the emotional ghost. He might still be sitting next to you on the couch, still going out to dinner with you, still technically in the relationship. But the connection is gone. He's present in body, but absent in spirit. This man's withdrawal is a shutdown, not a departure. When things get serious, the emotional demands of the relationship increase. It's no longer just about fun and chemistry. It's about navigating conflict, sharing fears, and building a life together. For the emotional ghost, this territory is terrifying. Why? Because he often grew up in an environment where emotional expression was discouraged or even punished. He was taught that real men are stoic, logical, and in control. Vulnerability is weakness. As a result, he never developed a language for his inner world. When you try to have a deep conversation about your feelings or the future, he doesn't have the tools to engage. It feels like you're asking him to speak a language he never learned. So he deflects. He cracks a joke, picks up his phone and starts scrolling, or turns on the TV. He might even get defensive, accusing you of being too dramatic or overthinking things. This isn't necessarily malicious. It's a defense mechanism. By invalidating your emotional needs, he avoids confronting his own emotional illiteracy. He's not pulling away from you specifically. He's pulling away from the emotional depth that you represent, a depth that he feels completely unequipped to navigate. He stays physically close because he doesn't want to lose you, but he keeps you at an emotional arm's length to feel safe. And for the person on the receiving end, it's a uniquely lonely and frustrating experience, leaving you feeling like you're in a relationship with a shadow. Each of these patterns feels personal, but as we'll see, they almost never are. Their roots go much, much deeper. These patterns of withdrawal, the running, the hiding, the vanishing, they don't just appear out of nowhere in adulthood. They are ghosts of the past, echoes of lessons learned in childhood when the stakes were much higher. The operating systems for how we handle love and intimacy are programmed into us long before we ever go on our first date. Think about the freedom seeker, the one who panics at the thought of a shared future. He likely didn't grow up experiencing love as a safe harbor. Instead, love may have felt like an obligation, a form of control. Perhaps he had a parent who was enmeshed with him, someone who lived vicariously through his achievements and whose happiness depended entirely on his presence. In that environment, creating distance wasn't a choice. It was a survival strategy. To become his own person, he had to literally fight for space. So now, as an adult, his nervous system has been wired to equate deep intimacy with suffocation. The moment your love starts to feel essential, his internal alarm bells don't say, "This is wonderful." They scream, "You are being consumed." His retreat isn't a rejection of you. It's a visceral, unconscious reflex to protect an identity he once had to fight to build. And what about the imposter, the man who adores you, but is convinced he'll be found out? His story often begins in a home where love was conditional. He learned early on that his worth wasn't inherent. It had to be earned through performance. Maybe he had a critical father who only offered praise for perfect grades or athletic wins. Affection was a reward, not a given. He learned to become a human doing, not a human being. He spent his entire childhood trying to prove he was worthy of the love he should have received unconditionally. So when you come along and offer him genuine, unconditional acceptance, it feels foreign and unbelievable. It doesn't compute with his core belief that he is fundamentally flawed. He looks at your love and thinks, she just doesn't see the real me yet. When she does, she'll be disappointed. The closer you get, the more intense his fear of exposure becomes. His pulling away is a desperate attempt to hide his perceived inadequacies, to end the performance before you have a chance to give him a bad review. He's not pushing you away. He's trying to outrun his own shame. Then there's the emotional ghost, the man who is physically present, but emotionally, a million miles away. His blueprint was likely written in a household where feelings were a liability. He grew up hearing messages like, "Boys don't cry," or "Stop being so sensitive." He might have seen his parents ignore their own emotional needs, bottling everything up until it exploded. He learned that emotions were messy, dangerous, and a source of trouble. So he did what any child would do to adapt. He learned to disconnect. He built a wall between his head and his heart. Now, when you try to connect with him on a deep, emotional level, you are unknowingly asking him to visit a part of himself that he has locked away for his own protection. His deflection, his jokes, his sudden fascination with his phone, these are not signs of indifference. They are the panicked actions of someone who feels he is being dragged into deep water without knowing how to swim. He keeps you at a distance emotionally because it's the only way he knows how to feel safe, to maintain control in a world that feels terrifyingly unpredictable to him. Here's the most important thing to understand. His withdrawal is a panic response, not a plan. It is almost never a calculated, conscious decision designed to inflict pain. It is an unconscious, fear-based reaction to a perceived threat. The threat of being engulfed, the threat of being exposed as inadequate, or the threat of being overwhelmed by emotions he cannot manage. When his old wound is triggered by the new intimacy, his fight-or-flight system takes over. His brain doesn't distinguish between the past danger and the present love. All it knows is that this feeling is familiar, and in the past, this feeling meant danger. His retreat is a deeply ingrained coping mechanism that once helped him survive, but now sabotages the very connection he likely craves. Seeing it this way doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does explain it. And that explanation is crucial, because it allows you to stop making his fear about your worth. His inability to receive your love is not a reflection of a flaw in your love. It is a reflection of a wound in him. It is a map of his past, not a judgment on your future. So the next time you feel that painful pull away, take a breath. Instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" you can learn to ask, "What fear might be driving this?" This shift doesn't mean you have to fix him or endure behavior that hurts you. It means you can reclaim your emotional footing. You can see the situation with clarity, free from the heavy fog of self-blame. You can make choices based on understanding, not on insecurity. Because ultimately, his journey to heal those wounds is his own. Your journey is to recognize that you are worthy of a love that can meet you where you are. A love that doesn't run when things get real. Now take a moment and think about your own experiences. Which pattern do you recognize most? The freedom seeker, the imposter, or the emotional ghost? Recognizing the pattern is the first step toward breaking it. I'd really appreciate it if you hit like, subscribe, and hit the bell.